Welcome to the press conference call for the September edition of the Philadelphia Fed's Business Outlook Survey. Today we will learn what manufacturers had to say about business activity for the month of September. I'm Danielle Mazzone, Media Relations Representative at the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia, and I'm joined by Senior Economic Analyst Mike Trebbing. And I'm going to hand it over to Mike to give us an overview.
Thank you. Good morning. Our regional Our regional manufacturing survey's broad indicators were all positive this month, signifying continued growth for the sector. The indicator for general activity decreased from its higher reading in August, but the other broad indicators for new orders, shipments, and employment all increased from the readings last month. The survey's price indexes suggest a modest increase in price pressures for inputs in final products this month, but by far the largest shares of firms are still reporting stable prices. Overall expectations for the next 6 months remain overall optimistic despite declines in some of the 6-month indicators. And most indicative of optimism, I think, was the notable increase in firms' hiring plans for the next 6 months. Our supplemental questions this month focused on having the firms estimate final third quarter production growth and in providing their forecasts for the upcoming fourth quarter. And these responses were overall consistent with the survey measures over the past few months and the overall expectations for growth over the next 6 months.
Did someone else join the call? Is it just Beth still? Okay. All right, so Beth Fitzgerald from NJ Biz. Do you have some questions?
Yeah, Mike, could you talk a little more about what you're seeing about employment expectations, employment growth? Tell me more about that. What is the survey saying about that?
Yeah, on the current side, just to mention that briefly, since they're more reliable numbers, I think we had about the same percentage, maybe 1% uptick in the share of firms reporting employment this month. Most of the increase in the index was attributable to fewer firms reporting decreases. But on the 6-month side, we saw a nice pickup to about 44% of the firms expecting employment growth over the next 6 months. That's up from 37% last month. So a fairly high reading. And we're getting comments that demand has picked up, and many of these firms are at the point where they have to hire additional workers to accommodate the increased production. And the fact that that their 6-month evaluation of expected growth in orders and shipments is correspondingly also high. But now we're starting to see some improved expectations for hiring as well.
And again, and now the special question talked about what the plan to do in terms of production, and how would you view what they had to say about future about production? Right.
Of course, the third quarter hasn't ended yet, but we did ask them for their growth expected final third quarter production. And found that the average firm was expecting about a 2% growth in the third quarter, with about almost 60% of the firms indicating they were increases over the prior quarter, and only 29% of the firms said that it was a decline from the second quarter. But then we had them focus on comparing the growth that they were expected for third quarter with their expectations and forecasts for the fourth quarter, and found that by far, more firms are expecting an acceleration in that growth rate than expecting a deceleration. So we've asked this question in September for the last couple of years, and this is a bit of an improvement over what we saw in prior times. We're able to compare the results across a couple different time periods. So it's generally, as I mentioned in the overview, it's generally consistent with their responses to the survey, where we've seen good high current diffusion indexes over the summer months, and much improved expectations over the next 6 months, which would encompass that fourth quarter period.
So is this are your results continuing what you've been seeing, or is it getting more optimistic? Is it the same?
Yeah, I think we've seen this improvement in expectations the last few months, and other surveys I think have seen similar results across the Fed system at least, and we're seeing improvement across the board. I think in a lot of these survey measures for the manufacturing sector at least. Again, it's a narrow regional survey and just of manufacturing firms, but that sector appears to be doing well and improving by these measures.
Okay. All right, those are all my questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
One thing before you go, Beth, Mike wanted to make just a short announcement.
Okay.
Right. On next Tuesday, we're going to be releasing the results of a non-manufacturing survey that will complement our manufacturing survey. The format will be similar to the Business Outlook survey, and we're branding this a non-manufacturing survey. So it will cover mostly the service sector as opposed to manufacturing. So we'll have some more information about that in a press release, I believe, this afternoon.
Yes, Beth, the press release will be going out at 1 o'clock today, so you can expect that.
And are you going to be doing this on a regular basis?
It will be coming out every month. We will not be having a press conference call in the beginning,
okay.
But yes, it will be a monthly survey.
Okay, great.
Hi, sorry, this is Cynthia from Dow Jones. Sorry I jumped on late. Mm-hmm. Hello?
Yes. Hi.
Hi, I just had a quick question about the employment, if I could. Would you be able to square that with the average employee work week? That kind of came down, both in the current survey and the Outlook.
Right. Yeah, we had at least on the diffusion index, a decline from 13.3 to 4.4% on the diffusion index, but on balance, still more firms that had a longer work week than shorter one.
Okay.
So those numbers tend to bounce around a bit, and they're a little more difficult to read in the summer months where they're coming off vacations and their plant shutdowns.
Okay, so there's a seasonal factor there, you're saying?
Yeah, and also we apply seasonal factors. So we focus more on the employment number than on the average work week.
Got it.
As it's been more consistent with other measures that we have for manufacturing employment.
Understood. All right, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. The next Manufacturing Business Outlook survey will be released on Thursday, October 16th.